and why living a balanced life isn't just a concept for me, but a practice I return to every single day. In the last episode, I introduced myself and shared a bit about my journey. But today, I want to talk about something that so many of us struggle with: the tension between wanting to build something meaningful and wanting to feel grounded, calm, and present in our everyday lives. For years, I believed that success had to look a certain way: busy, fast-paced, always moving, always producing. And if I'm honest, that mindset left me exhausted. It wasn't until I started building my own business and later my planner brand that I realized something important. Balance isn't a luxury, it's a foundation. It's the thing that allows us to create from a place of clarity instead of chaos. So in this episode, I'm sharing the real story behind how I began designing a more intentional life. The small shifts that made the biggest difference. The moments where I had to pause, breathe, and ask myself, is this actually working for me? And the tools and routines that helped me rebuild my days in a way that felt supportive rather than overwhelming. I'll also talk about how planning became such a powerful part of my life, not as a rigid system, but as a gentle guide, a way to create space for the things that matter and to let go of the things that don't. My hope is that as you listen, you'll hear something that resonates with your own journey. Maybe you're building a business, maybe you're trying to find your footing again, or maybe you're simply craving a bit more calm in your day. Wherever you are, I want this episode to feel like a reminder that you're allowed to slow down. You're allowed to choose balance, and you're allowed to build a life that feels good to you. So let's dive in. Let's talk about balance, business, and the beauty of creating a life with intention. As I started making these small changes toward a more intentional life, something unexpected happened, and it changed everything. I broke my ankle, and as much as I wouldn't wish that experience on anyone, it forced me to do something I had been resisting for far too long. I had to slow down. There was no pushing through, no rushing from one thing to the next, no pretending I could carry on at the same pace. My body made the decision for me, and for the first time in a long time, I had to sit still. And in that stillness, I learned so much. When you're forced to stop, you start to notice things you've been ignoring: the exhaustion you've normalized, the habits that aren't serving you, the way you've been running on autopilot. Breaking my ankle became this strange, unexpected pause button. It gave me space to reflect, to breathe, and to ask myself some honest questions about how I was living and working. It was during that time that I realized balance isn't something you wait for, it's something you choose. And sometimes life gives you a not-so-gentle nudge to make that choice. As I healed, I promised myself I wouldn't go back to the pace I was keeping before. I wanted to build a life that supported me, not one that drained me. And that's when planning shifted from being a tool I used to stay organized to something much deeper. It became a way of caring for myself, a way of creating space for rest, creativity, and clarity. And that's what I want to share with you today. Because you don't need a broken ankle to give yourself permission to slow down. You can choose it now. You can choose balance before your body demands it. You can choose to build a life that feels aligned, intentional, and sustainable. As I slowly recovered and began moving through the world again, I realized something important. Slowing down wasn't just part of healing, it was part of living. And once I experienced that clarity, I knew I didn't want to go back to the pace I'd been keeping before. So I started paying attention to what actually supported me, what helped me feel grounded, what made my days feel spacious instead of squeezed. And that's what I want to share with you now, because these small practices became the foundation of the balanced life I'm building today. The first thing I learned was the power of intentional pauses. Not long breaks, not big dramatic resets, just tiny moments throughout the day where I stopped, breathed, and checked in with myself. It sounds simple, but those pauses changed everything. They helped me respond instead of react. They helped me notice when I was pushing too hard. They helped me reconnect with what I actually needed. The second thing was creating gentle structure. Not rigid routines, but rhythms. Things that supported me without boxing me in. A morning ritual that set the tone for the day. A planning moment in the evening to clear my mind. A weekly reset that helped me feel prepared instead of overwhelmed. These rhythms became anchors, soft, steady, and reliable. And the third thing was giving myself permission to let things be easier. I'd spent so many years believing that everything had to be hard, that effort equaled worth. But healing taught me that ease isn't laziness, ease is wisdom, ease is alignment, ease is choosing what supports you instead of what drains you. These are the practices that shape my journey back to balance. And they're the same practices I still use today in my life, in my business, and in the planner brand I'm building. Because balance isn't a destination. It's a way of moving through the world, a way of choosing yourself gently and consistently. Before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a simple invitation. Take one small moment this week, just one, to slow down on purpose. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It could be a quiet cup of tea, a 5-minute pause before you start your day, or a moment to breathe before you say yes to something. Notice how it feels to give yourself that space. Notice what shifts. And if today's episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to join me on this journey. Subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you feel called to, share it with someone who might need a little more balance in their life too. You can also connect with me on my website or social channels where I share more about intentional living, planning, and building a life that supports you. I'd love to hear what balance looks like for you right now. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for choosing to create a life that feels good from the inside out. I'll see you in the next episode.